Hey, welcome back to Economist here, and I thought I'd do my first update on what's going down with the Gweimlins. So first of all, let me just give you a bit of a background. I've been involved in crypto for a while. I have it in business, so I use it as a payment gateway. I always laugh when I hear people say, no businesses use crypto. I've been using crypto in our business as a payment gateway for many years. I've been using it because we kept losing payment gateways like PayPal and card terminals because we sell CBD or because we have vape or because, as I will go on to in a second, I've got a criminal history. I have a criminal history. I have a criminal background. I have a criminal background. That sounds terrible. I have a criminal record in the past, has now spent, and that is a story in and of itself. I'm going to go into that very briefly today to give you some background. I think it's very important to be transparent. In the UK, once your convictions have been spent, you don't actually have to mention them, but I just don't think that's in the right frame of things. And actually, my background and the mistakes I made when I'd say I was a kid. I mean, some people might go, you're old enough to bet. And I was just a dickhead. I was in my 20s, and I fucked up my life, and I paid the price for it. The path I followed since then has been, I think, where I am now. I wouldn't even know what I would have been doing, to be honest with you. I was at a point in my life where I couldn't imagine working in an office anymore. I lost all kind of will to try and, just be a good egg, I suppose. I just thought, shit's the fan, so what? That's kind of where I got to in life, and I think that maybe was a malaise with life, or I don't know. I had a chip on my shoulder, all sorts of reasons. Someone could sit me down in front of a shrink and ask me all these questions, like they did, and we've all got our reasons, but they're all excuses and they're all nonsense. I was a dickhead, paid the price, went to prison, and when I came out I had nothing to my name. I had £41, which is what they call a prison warrant. It's enough to get your bus fare home, and I went from working in corporate finance and being a hotshot city guy in a fancy suit and crazy parties, and I don't know, I sound like a misogynist if I go into some of these stories, so I won't, to working, cleaning windows in shops and pointing brickwork and painting, decorating, and I don't know, I enjoyed it. It was an honest day's work for an honest day's pay, and I'm thankful for family for giving me those kind of opportunities, and I saved up some money, and I was lucky enough that I had a wife or a girlfriend then who was very supportive and went, look, you fucked up your life once, but that isn't because you are an idiot, but don't stop trying things. Don't stop trying to achieve in life. Not that it's not an achievement to be a self-employed tradesman. Some of the wealthiest people I know are tradesmen. But I was almost scared to try and start a business or do anything because I thought, I'm going to mess it up and I'm going to get in trouble. And she pushed me, and I started a shop, and that cascaded into 30 shops and an online business. I sold the shops a month before lockdown, and so on and so forth. So I've been I've been involved in e-commerce. I've been involved in human behaviour. I've been involved in many different backgrounds. I've got a storied background. Loads of things. So I've seen over the last couple of months how the NFT industry is being hijacked to some degree by some utter scumbags, utter clowns, people that I probably would have come across in my own life. So I'll give you a bit of my own background. I, as a young man, I was in the forces. I had an acceptance to go to our officer training academy in the UK called Sandhurst, and I was all ready to go. I buggered up my knee doing the bleep test, or the multi-stage fitness test, as they call it. Got itchy nose, it's like, he's lying. I don't know whether or not I'd do a video if I was hiding these things, but the multi-stage fitness test, bleep test, I had this terrible old MP3 player that was the old little USB sticks, whatever, and I'd go and do that. I hurt my knee, and I got back squatted, or back period moved into another intake. There's 3 intakes a year, and the knee wasn't any better. I was putting on weight, and while I was doing that, I got a job working in the city as what's called a coupon boy. A coupon boy is someone who calls up people for a brokerage or a financial services firm and says, I want to send you out some paperwork. I understand you've got shares in Boots PLC, which is done a report. It's completely free of charge. Just want to double check your postcode and make sure you still got the shares. You've still got the shares? Brilliant. Okay, I'll get it out to you. Bang. And I'd be on that phone all day long doing hundreds and hundreds of those calls. What's the point of that phone call? I didn't actually know what the point of that phone call was for a while. I was just a job. I was getting paid like 12 grand a year. It was peanuts. It was barely paying for the train fare. But it was a job in the city, and I thought it was an entrance into finance. And if I wasn't going to be going to Sandhurst just yet, then I might as well work in the city, really. It's it seemed a respectable thing to do, and money goes to money, as a friend of mine once said, so you might as well work in it. So that's what I was doing. I was on the phone every day, bang, 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 doing all these calls. Someone gets a letter and they go, yeah, I'll have a report, and then in return, one of the brokers there would call them up and say, look, thanks for getting your feedback. I understand you're looking for some advice on the shares you've got. What else are you doing? Is it just shares you invest in? Okay, you do. I think okay, cool. Well, look, we primarily cover shares. I love the opportunity to perhaps talk about some other things that we do. Maybe look at some new ideas for your portfolio. Have you given it a refresh recently? When was the last time you looked at it? How often do you trade? What does it do for a living? That kind of stuff. Just build a rapport. Anyway, those guys would then build client bases from that, and then they would trade them. And what I would later find out is they would invariably do something called penny share stockbroking. And nothing wrong with penny shares by their very nature. A penny share in America is different to a penny share in the UK by orders of magnitude. You call a £1 billion company almost a penny share. We call a company that really is a penny share a penny share. So a company that is worth less than £100 million, share price is worth less than a pound. There's a number of different metrics. But anyway, that's you can see where I'm going with this one. I was once referred to in one of the UK papers as the UK's Wolf of Wall Street. I'm a long way from that. How did I end up in that path? So I went from that firm, and then I saw a better firm looking for jobs. I thought they were a better firm. They had quite a fancy old name. I got there and I went for the interview, and there was this ticker going on the screen with all Marks and Spencers, Virgin, British Airways, whatever it is, all the ticker prices for the listed stocks. And I was like, this is. And they also had a market making team, proper corporate finance team, and they did proper investments. And they actually spun out originally from a tobacco company years ago that would then start sorting out insurance for their own shipping across the empire, and then started finding it quite profitable to do it for other people. And then they had an insurance arm, and they got a finance license for it, and that was grandfathered into private wealth management and blah blah blah. And someone astute bought the insurance firm, had all the licenses for very very cheap, and set up a stockbroking firm and started selling penny stocks as well as normal stocks. Why do they sell penny stocks? Well, if you're a company looking to raise capital, you would approach someone like a small cap brokerage or a merchant finance house. They might take you on, they might sponsor the listing. So maybe you want to raise £500,000 and you come and see a merchant banker. Okay, I would then go and speak to 5 people I know, and they may be brokerages, and I'll say, guys, I've got a small company about to go on a market or already on a market looking to do a fundraise, looking to raise some capital. I've got positions of 100, 200k, how much do you want to take? In return, the corporate finance fee is X percentage. It'll be at a discount to the market price, so there'll be a bit of a principal position gap. It's essentially, the easiest way to explain this to someone who's never done this before is imagine you buy shares wholesale at that level of the market, because there's a lot less liquidity. There's some real big money to be made. So companies would buy £500,000 worth of stock as it's priced on the retail market and might get it for 100 grand, 150 grand. They then place it for 400 grand, and there's a hell of a gap in the difference. So I ended up in that rather strange. I didn't even know anything about this. So I'm working for a stockbroking firm. I'm now not a coupon boy for a different company. I'm now opening clients for people. So I'm the guy now saying, hey, you got that report letter signed back to us. I just want to see what you're doing, and I'd open up an account, and they'd send in a form. So now I'm doing that, and then now I open enough in a certain period of time, and I become a stockbroker, start trading these clients. Anyway, the commissions are very very small. I saw it very very quickly, and I thought, hey, I could probably do my own thing. So myself and another member of staff there found a company out there that could give us a license to share. You share the license essentially. It's called an appointed representative in the UK. I don't know what they call it in America. And you set up your own brokerage under their banner. You do your own thing, and you pay them a commission. So I ended up working for myself. Anyway, just realised how long this story is going to get to. So what next? I'm going to try and speed it up a little bit because I'm going to go on for ages. But so I'm doing that, and that company who gave us their license actually were a bit of a rogue brokerage. We ended up getting an article written about us in the media, even though we hadn't even traded a share, we hadn't even signed up a client. We were accused of being their escape capsules. Like, no, they offered us money because we were going to be earn them money by using their license, and also we came from their rival company. So, and our own company would never have given us money to do this. So that was the seed capital. So that was just bad decision making. From there, we now had a team of people and an office and a brand and everything else, and training and everything, all that stuff, but we didn't have a license. Someone else asked us, hey, I've got a license and I've got no team. So we went in there and we replaced their team. First day in there, I interviewed all of their staff, sacked most of them, kept a couple, started just doing the trading myself because they had a client base ready to go, and we started making money for this guy for the first time in ages. He was an absolute, he'd come in drunk of an afternoon. He was an absolute clown. He was a moron. I remember once he went to go and meet a merchant banking company who had offered him a stock in a company called, I'm going to call them, they're called Hill Station. They're an ice cream company who were about to go bankrupt, and it was the coldest, wettest summer Britain had seen in years, and it was now September, so that's the end of our summer, and it was a wet Wednesday in September, and he goes, I've got you a position, it's called Hill Station, we've got a right turn on it, right touch on it. So I used to sound. So he comes from a place called Essex, which is where I'm from, which is just outside of London, and they were listed for, I don't know, let's say they're listed for 10p, they weren't. He got it at 2p and we could sell it for 7p, so he was going to make a load of money and we were going to make some good money as well. But it's not something we want to sell. We didn't have any choice in the matter. He'd already committed to it, and he was quite highly strung. So we were having to call up investors on the wettest Wednesday in September to talk to them about investing in an ice cream company who are about to go bankrupt for obvious reasons, and helping them raise capital. In return, they'll get a discount. Now, I don't think any discount was good enough. Well, actually, I think they're still going. They might not be, I don't know. But I'm just pulling that out of the air. But so now I'm getting in this murkier world. Anyway, we come in one day, having turned this guy's company around, making him money, and he goes, it's not personal. It's not personal. I just wanted to speak to another team. Anyway, turns out the trading team from the company that had originally given us a license and then lost theirs, those guys now are out looking for work, and they've come in there and they've gone, oh, you don't give them a share of the profits those guys are making. We'll just take 10%. And so we got kicked out. We got a small go away fee, but we just done all that work, and I've probably never felt so bad in my life in terms of I just completely ripped off. And maybe in hindsight, in hindsight, it doesn't really fucking matter. I deserved it. I was already part of a negative industry. Bear in mind this time I have no idea any of this was, this is in the UK is legal. It's a grey area. And this was up until about 2 or so years later. From there, I now started doing corporate finance, working for a company to try and using this team because all these guys have been sacked as well along with me, kicked out. I've been kicked out, they've been kicked out as well, and they've been replaced by another team. So got a bunch of people who are loyal to me, trying to find them a place. So we go to another company and say, look, we can try and help you do more business with your corporate finance placements. We'll build up a little team and start speaking to high net worth investors. And that's kind of the way it went. I went work for another brokerage after I kind of got those guys all jobs, and I started doing just normal stockbroking and a bit of corporate placement here and there. I had one client who was a high net worth investor, and he would buy distressed educational assets from local authorities that would make money, small profitable business entities. But he'd need capital to buy them out. So it might be, I can buy this education driver instructional training company over here. It's going to cost 50 grand. It's going to cost 100 grand. And he kept asking me whether or not I could raise that amount of capital. Very small sums. So it's kind of like, I can't really, because of all the work you put in and you've got to structure it legally. It's not worth it. And then I sat there one day. I thought, what if I built a cash vehicle that could invest in all of these projects? And it would mean he could just come to me and I could then invest in those. I'd get finder's fee as a kind of a commission for doing so. I could be the director so I can get a salary, and then we're managing this educational investment fund. That's kind of how it started. Anyway, I went and made some phone calls, spoke to some corporate legal teams, and was going to set up a kind of a private equity vehicle to do that. What I hadn't realised, and this is why I'm quite ambivalent about everything, but I think sometimes you go to prison or you get in trouble for crime in general because as a youngster, I wasn't always a great lad. I was a bit of a dickhead at times. What I hadn't realised was the laws had changed. So the laws meant that you could ring up an investor and you could get them to certify that they were high net worth or they were an angel investor. In about 2007, 2008, the laws had changed to mean they now had to be on a registered list of high net worth investors. Otherwise, you've essentially just marketed a security without regulation, and that's called a crime. That's a financial breach, and that's a crime. That's in the UK we have what's called strict liability. So they've got that same in America. So strict liability means if you're a director of a company doing something and you breach financial regulations, even if you don't know you're doing a crime, it's still a crime, and it's strict liability. And so how crazy is that? Okay, let me explain this. So I spoke to a corporate finance firm, corporate legal advisors, and their job was to structure everything and be the legal solicitors, the corporate solicitors. So their job was essentially to spot this. They hadn't spotted it. So I've gone and spent a ton of my own money to set this up using those guys, and they hadn't seen the laws had changed as well. So I wasn't in a grey area anymore. I was now in an illegal area, and that started to mean everything started to crumble around me. So we started raising capital for these projects. At the same time, my then girlfriend's, I won't name her stepdad had a business idea, a very good business idea. It was an interest rate swaps index derivative system. So like you spread bet shares, you could spread bet interest rate swaps. And he'd been working on this for many years in conjunction with FTSE, and it was a patented product. He's come out of the US. I was going around speaking to big firms like ICAP and Trad and different big entities in the UK, meeting some very important people, and they take time to speak to it because they wanted to see the platform. They were interested in the platform, or the product itself. They'd heard about it. We had a few banks who were interested and we'd set up a little side business that was all being invested in as well. And they were, so I was getting my drink out. We'd set up like hoot and holler calling systems. We started to do genuine things. But what I started to hear was these businesses, these interdealer brokers, didn't like this interest rate swaps index system because it would cannibalise their own market of old traditional hoot and holler, bigger commissions rather than it being automated. Eventually everything becomes automated, but at the time they weren't a fan of it for that reason. And if they were going to do something like that, they want to do their own thing. Right. So now it's dawning on me every month. Girlfriend, stepfather's calling me up saying, everything's still going all right, still paying us guys, everything's still going, still at the office, still going on. And I started to realise he's using me. He's using this guy in his mid-20s to invest in his project, to make him sound good, because he's going around going, yeah, I've got these great guys, office up in London, they're only focusing on my interest rate swap system. We're going out, we're calling all the banks, the trading banks, to get them to set up call lines. We had Bank of Canada? Is it Bank of Canada? One of the Canadian banks, maybe it's Toronto Dominion or Toronto Dom, who agreed to have one set in, so we'd have a hoot and holler line, which is like, you pick it up and you can do a deal straight away. So we'd started to do some stuff there. I was investing in that. And we were struggling to finish the fundraising for the overall educational investment vehicle, and we were obviously breaking the law. We didn't realise at the time. Anyway, my world starts crumbling around. I go into a bit of a mess. I'm thinking, we're not going to raise all the money. We're going to run out of money for this project with the girlfriend's then stepdad's business. I now realise he's taking a bit of a liberty with me. And then we start getting a few phone calls about people who are annoyed that they'd invested and they hadn't heard anything, they hadn't got their share certificate yet. I mean, you could have just printed one off and written one. Anyway, I reply back and I put on I'd seen it once before when I used to work for a bank. They had like a pretend name for a department. And so, what was the name? Like it was, if a letter come in or an email came in asking for that person, they knew what department it was regarding. It might have been like debt collection, or it might have been complaints or whatever. So I just used the same, just to try and fob it off, make it look a bit more professional. I don't know, whatever reason, or maybe back then it might have been just to try and take my name out of it, even though my name was on the business. So I don't think it was that. Anyway, I realised I was probably gonna not be able to raise enough capital anymore. It wasn't going to work the way I was, and I did what any idiot probably would do, which is just put his head in the sand and deal with it. I did a runner, fucked off to Ibiza, and a few months go by, and I hear that the police come looking for me. So I go back to the UK, and I get in trouble. So that's my background. Very fortunately, because I'd gone about it initially in the right way, how I handled at the end ended up fucking things up. Everyone got their money back, but it doesn't. I put my family through hell, and I've got this thing over me for pretty much the rest of my life. So even though your convictions are spent, it doesn't change anything. The one upside from it is I probably learned to value life a bit more than money. I know I'm involved in crypto, but I don't know, I do more as a hobby really. And I don't know, I think it brought me quite close to my dad. Unfortunately, I don't have both of my parents anymore, so it's a shame to spend some of my years of my life with that. But being a fairly middle class background, you can hear it in my voice, you don't normally see the other side of the world. And this is where I wouldn't want to put people through shit again. But no, I don't want to put people through shit again. But I think it's important sometimes when you come from a certain background to see how other people live and how other people struggle. I'd be one of those people who would be reading a tabloid paper and you go, yeah, there's like a holiday camp in there and everything, and all the other nonsense, or yeah, they're just trouble all their life. And actually, some people just don't have the same access to opportunity. They haven't had the same upbringing. They haven't been surrounded by the same amount of love. I remember when after being arrested, my dad picked me up from the solicitors, and he said, "No matter what happens, son, I still love you." And I always remember that. It's probably the best thing he ever said to me. And I wonder how many people who I met inside have never had anything like that said to them. My parents, when I was a youngster, would sit me down with like a exam workbook to test me from my exams and stuff, so I could pass them. So I was exam ready, and so I got a better education because I'd go to a selective school. How many kids inside didn't have that? So the opportunities that I was given that I don't always see, I'm incredibly grateful for, because when I come out of prison with £41, and that's how it works in the UK, you hear these stories and they go, "Oh, I bet you got loads of money." It doesn't work that way. They freeze your accounts. That's it. You're done. You're absolutely done. What they can't take away is your education, or your ability to think rationally, or your ability to get love from a community to support you. And I think back to when my wife said, "Don't give up trying to do things. You've made a mistake, but you didn't set out to make a mistake. You made a mistake and you handled it wrong. How did you get punished? Well, you lost everything. You went to prison. That's pretty shameful. There isn't much worse than that. You could have gone through. You've lived through it. You turned yourself around. You're working hard, but don't stop that from ever. If you've got an opportunity, an idea, to not do it." And that kind of stuck with me. And so I was definitely scared to make mistakes again. I didn't want to. I didn't want to cause any trouble. I didn't want to. I set up a business, and for years I've never been self-employed because I don't like the hassle of the paperwork and everything and all that other stuff. And it's probably to the tax detriment, and I probably paid more tax than I need to, but I don't mind. I'm on PAYE, and I get paid each week, and it's easy, and all my taxes are done. And I've got a good team around me. But for quite a while I didn't do anything but just carried on doing my normal work. So I was doing plastering. I'd learned to plaster. My dad was a builder, so I was lucky that I picked up some trades as a kid. Yeah, I think that kept me on straight and narrow. I saved up a few quid, not a lot of money, but I didn't spend a lot of money. You see, when you're about to go to prison and your assets have been frozen, they also freeze how much money you can have every week. So I learned to spend absolutely nothing. So I was getting quite good at saving money. So I could make not a lot of money go far. And a while back, before I had all this problem, I quit smoking I bought some vapes. I bought some vapes in America. I bought these little cigar-like things, and they were great. And I come back to the UK, and then they stopped working, and I kept buying the random items off Amazon. I couldn't find the right items. I didn't know which one was the right one or what was the wrong one. Oh, it's a great product, but it's inherently manufacturer-led, not consumer-led. So the product means I have to buy their part, their piece of equipment, and that's frustrating. And it's the same reason why in the EU right now they're trying to have a go at Apple for using a special, unique charger port, and they're saying no, use USB-C because that's consumer-led, not manufacturer-led. So I thought, great product, inherently flawed. If you bought one of these and you were in another town and they didn't have the spare parts, you're screwed. You're gonna have to buy cigarettes again or something else. So anyway, put that at the back of my mind. Years go by. I'm doing the building work, doing the plastering work, and I see my mate with this great big contraption. I was like, "What's that?" And he goes, "Oh, it's a vape." I was like, "That's not a vape." Anyway, we got talking, and I realised there was a hell of a big opportunity in what I finally now saw as a consumer-led product with universal refills. So I thought about setting up a website. I did set up a website. I set it up, and very quickly I realised that you couldn't do paid advertising for it because it's classed essentially the same as Al-Qaeda and adult porn or whatever. Adult porn, just to make that sound clean. You just can't advertise it. In the UK, cancer research and the public health back vaping. MPs are going to potentially put vaping on prescriptions. But Amazon and Google are American companies, and they're not going to allow it for UK advertising. So couldn't advertise. How do you get people to a website if you can't advertise? Well, you can do SEO, and I was learning SEO at the time. I'd actually written a diary of my time inside, and from that I started to get a ton of traffic to this blog I'd written on WordPress. Loads of traffic. I didn't know anything about SEO or blogging. So why am I getting all this traffic? Anyway, I found I was doing lots of fresh, regular content. I was getting hundreds of thousands of views every single month. I actually sold the blog, the domain, because it was getting traffic some years later. But I learnt the value of a unique content and doing blogging, and you could build traffic organically. Well, I thought, okay, maybe I could do that for for the website. Actually, the blog was interesting because people would contact me who were about to go through the same problem, different offences and things, but going to prison, and they were desperate and worried, and they were asking for advice. So I spent my days writing the blog, doing plastering in the daytime, in the evening, being like an agony aunt, and it was quite cathartic, to be honest. The whole thing was very cathartic because no fine, no bills, refresh. It's not like a holiday camp, unless a holiday camp is surrounded by people who have been tormented, poor food, low quality accommodation. Actually, it sounds an awful lot like a holiday camp. It's not. We actually checked. I got a guide on star ratings. In the UK, in the papers, they go, prison's like a 3-star holiday camp. No, it's not, because it doesn't have a sofa in the reception. It has a cell, and you can actually see what classifies it. But that's the kind of thing you do inside when you're bored. You get the guide listing sent in. Anyway, so back to the housing people to a website, a vape site. So as well working, so SEO is going to take some time. So one day my uncle said, look, there's a shop across the road here. My dad and his brother used to go to a cafe every Wednesday. He goes, there's a shop across the road there. He goes, it's been empty for a while. I bet if you offered the landlord a future to a discounted price, he'd probably let you in there and set up a little shop, give it a go. And I said, well, it's easy to say. I said, I've never done that before, and I don't know who the hell the landlord is. And he goes, get us a cup of tea and I'll tell you. So I've got a cup of tea. He went, right. He goes, I want £500 a month, but you can do it for £400 a month, and you can do it on a month-to-month basis. Anyway, my uncle was, very fortunately, the landlord, gave me a very good deal, and he gave me a very flexible deal, and it was a very cheap, good little shop, and it was in a community, so people would go past up and down those streets. People say retail's dead, bricks and mortar, but actually what we're seeing at the moment is secondary parades in retail residential areas where people are working from home are doing very, very well. It's the high streets that are struggling. So anyway, I set the shop up a month before I got married, and I went away on holiday with my girlfriend, or my fiance at the time, and her friends, and my soon-to-be brother-in-law was working in it as a bit of a job part-time while I was gone. He rang me up and he went, mate, he goes, we've done £500 today. And I'm like, what? And I'd literally spent about £2,500 getting it. I was painting it myself, put some starter kits in a backpack, and the place, it paid itself off in no time. It's not surprising because I put no money in it, but people were coming from far and wide because these things didn't exist in my local county. I got the local press down, I had the MP down. It's crazy. I was one of the early ones in certainly where I'm based as well. There wasn't many vape shops in the southeast at the time, and I was thinking, hang, this is not bad. This is doing all right. So then I thought, what happens if someone does one in my local town? So I went and got one in my local town a month later. Day after my wedding, loads of props we used at our wedding. Went to the shop and we decorated the shop in a steampunk style because that's kind of how our wedding was, and so on and so forth. And we built up a chain that way. A friend of mine who, long-term friend of mine, best man at my wedding, he backed me with a further £30,000 about a year later, and we opened up a bunch more shops. We never really got capital. I've gone and met businesses and merchant bankers and investment houses, and they loved, they liked the way I presented, they liked my honesty, my transparency. I was completely upfront about my past, and in the end, they'd think about it and they'd come back and they'd go, look, we're not sure about retail, we're not sure about vaping, and that's the thing they'd say, we're not sure about retail, we're not sure about vaping. And I get, look, there are businesses who won't invest in vaping because it's ESG and whatever, but the reality is, I think, they couldn't back a guy with a criminal record. That's probably the bottom line. Maybe there's more to it than that. Maybe it is retail, and I don't blame them for that. But we had definitely a good few years where they could have made some great money and got out. And that's been the case with everything, really. And I've seen it even with, there's a platform in the UK called Seeders, who are a crowdfunding platform. And they started doing very well, actually, and then they started struggling. And we approached them for another business that I was involved with. Actually, I was no longer involved with, but I'd helped set up, founded it. And my wife had some shares, and they loved it. They loved the books and everything about it. It was ready to go, and they did the background checks, and it come up, and they said, "Oh yeah, we can't because of this guy basically." So because of a guy that was once involved with founding it, they couldn't raise money. It's just absurd, and it goes on and on and on. We went to get a mortgage one day, and I don't know how it came out. We were quite upfront. All of a sudden, we not only didn't get the mortgage, our then business account got a letter saying it's been closed down because we'd spoken about our background and my past. In the early days, I went and got a card terminal manually approved by HSBC, and there was humans back then. They said, "Look, I've got a criminal past. It's going to come up on the fraud system," and they manually override and approved it. Particularly as my crime wasn't credit card fraud. I wasn't going to set up a shop and start trying to take an extra £5 off people. And then the computers come in place, and then one day we just lost it because of business checks. They can't go into it. They can get away with it. Can't go into it. They say, "Oh, we So we're taking a business decision. And there's no human to go back to anymore. They're gone. We've lost card terminals because after being approved by PayPal that we could use PayPal for our website, which sold CBD because it was only a small percentage. Then a year later they just reneged on it, and we just lost PayPal. They held our money for about 8 or 9 months. It was thousands of pounds of our payroll. We've got people's jobs at risk here. We've lost card terminals because we took crypto. We've lost bank accounts because we took crypto. It's just absurd. The idea that you would close a business's bank account because they take a small percentage of their income in crypto to make a certain set of customers happy. What was the reason? This was Metro Bank, so a fairly new bank, right? I love seeing them struggle now. I love seeing them struggle when they do things like this. Metro Bank said, we can't be sure where the money's coming from your customers when they use crypto, and then, well, ain't going in your bank. Doesn't go in the bank, stays in the crypto wallet. But we can't be sure where the money's coming from. Well, you can't be sure where the money's coming from when someone spends a 20 quid note as well. What a stupid thing. Essentially, it's probably a policy of they're using crypto, let's punish them. I have no idea what the intelligence behind that is, because in about 2 years' time, they're going to start allowing crypto, I'm sure, or 2 or 3 years. The strategy of fighting it is failing. You can't uninvent the atom bomb. You can't uninvent decentralized money. It's just absurd, the idea that you could. China tried to ban Bitcoin 20 times. It's failed. They banned Facebook once, it worked. You can't put the cat back in the bag, if that's the phrase. So I've seen how legacy finance works. I've seen where legacy finance takes people. In terms of my own experience working in the city, we'd come in on a Friday morning. This was before I was even a bad egg. And the boss would have lines of cocaine racked up in the toilets. We thought, we're crazy. And then we'd have the old boys in there who were 50s and 60s who go, should have seen it at Solomon Brothers 20 years ago. It was wild in the life exchange. This is just endemic. Maybe it's the bro culture, I don't know, I have no idea. I'm not here to talk about that. I quite like a bit of bro culture sometimes. Got my rugby top on, it's this side, the wrong side, got my rugby top on. I've seen how it is, I've seen how they respond to businesses. Now, I'm pretty resilient. I mean, there's probably a point where you become not resilient. We're currently facing having to lose our card facilities again from an online facilities because we take CBD. Same CBD that is sold in Boots, Tesco's, Holland & Barrett, just anywhere across the UK. But we can't have it now. But you can go to, you could bet your bottom dollar they provide card facilities for a business that can. So there's no equivalence. They've got, I think this is the thing, is they get a license from the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK, but essentially they're getting a license from the taxpayer. Yet they don't have any moral obligation to be decent to the taxpayer. And their view can be, well, we're a business, you can use somewhere else. Unfortunately, we're getting to a point now where with electronic banking, you either have access or exclusion. There is no alternative. Eventually, there is no alternative to PayPal on the PayPal network. There is just PayPal, and PayPal is a major network. We've lost PayPal on our sites because we do vaping, and I understand they can have their policies. But the real one that bothers me is the CBD. And the real one that bothers me is the crypto. And the real one that bothers me is the fact that even years and years and years after my conviction is spent, I'm still seeing it. I've got higher insurance premiums. I struggle to get mortgages, all of these things. And so you kind of just give up. Now, I've got a good team around me. I've got a very supportive wife. But what if you haven't got those things? The rich, the well-educated do not have a monopoly on great ideas. And this was my whole thinking about Gweimlins. I wanted to create something that was going to be off of the main chain because it's just untenable. The idea of Ethereum being a place right now for NFTs, not that I don't think anyone needs their cartoon Gweimlin to be on a layer 1 protocol to prove finality or whatever. I think layer 2 works fine. I just can't see it getting better. And if Ethereum 2.0 isn't till middle of next year, it's probably going to have some teething problems. I think it will happen then. But even then, there's not going to be enough transactions per second to accommodate global adoption. We've seen even with Solana getting massive quick adoption, it had problems on their chain. So I think layer 2 and things like Solana are going to be the place to be. And so I just thought, well, Immutable X is definitely a growing place for it. I'd be interested to know what other people think about it, if they've used Solana. I'd like to do Immutable. It's been tough. Let me give you something that I've come across as well. So I thought I'd give you an update where I am. So there's no Discord yet. There's going to be a Discord soon. When is soon? Soon is when I can see the Twitter start hitting, triple figures in sort of the 400s and the 500s. There's no point me getting a Discord now and us have Twitter of 150 followers and no one interested. Everyone say they want transparent, honest, innovative ideas that add value to their NFT. Everyone says they want that, or a lot of people do. But ultimately the proof is in the pudding. If people aren't sharing this, if people aren't following this, if people aren't showing interest in this in any great shakes compared to the next pig gang club that's pumped out on random hype discords, then that's unfortunate, and that's kind of where we are. But I don't want to be a slave to a Discord channel, Discord server while I'm trying to build up get the marketing things in place, get the artwork tidied up, get that finished, get some of the flashing GIFs, get some of the graphics and the creative ready for more marketing. So that's why I kind of want to hold off just for about a week, 10 days, maybe 2 weeks till Discord comes up. I am actively looking in the background for people with Discord expertise. And I am also speaking to some of the marketing influencers. There are some that I don't want to touch. I think we all know about those ones, but there are some that I will touch because it offers a good opportunity for us to amplify our brand. What else is important to talk about? Yes, one of the things I've been struggling with a little bit was finding reliable developers for Immutable X. I've got a Solidity developer that I've been working with on another project who is still unsure about the whole process with Immutable, so it's not perfect. And so I think there's still a long way for Immutable X to become a very good workable solution. And so I am open, if people were open to it, to say, hey, look, you don't have to die on the hill of Immutable X. Solana is fine. I used Solana this morning actually. I have an NFT on Solana. I had to increase the price that it was listed at because, I bought it way cheaper, and I just put a random price on. I think I put like 69 or something as the price, 6.9, and it's moving up fast. It cost me 0.0001 Solana to change the price, and I did it all in 2 seconds. And there was no wait. It was just super quick, super easy. Phantom Wallet, making a mobile version as well. It's really easy, and I just think if they move quicker with that mobile wallet than Immutable X, make a good front end for minting NFTs, then we've got some issues. The problem with Immutable X is while it is gas free, and I'm saying this now, and I'm shouting out about doing an Immutable X listing. I'd like to do an Immutable X listing because I think that will connect up easier with things like Coinbase and OpenSea. And so that makes it easier for attacking a wider audience of people. But I've lost my train of thought. But yeah, the Solana aspect has been incredibly easy. But if everyone said, hey, look, you know what, Solana's fine, then we'll do that, and we'd still attack the same project, the same principles, the same things as everything else. But so I don't want to die on that hill, but I just want to throw that out there. I want to see what people think. What do you think? Have you used Solana? Have you used Solana? Have you used those things? But Phantom's been super easy, but I'd like to be using Immutable X. The only problem with Immutable X is it's gasless once you're on Immutable X, but you still have to convert your ETH to WETH, which still is a cost. And it's not, you can't just go on Binance and buy WETH. So, but I also know that some people can't get Solana coins very easily, or they can't get access to FTX platforms and things like that. So that's one of the things that's held me back there and why I thought against it. But I'm open-minded if enough people say, look, no, Solana's fine. Ultimately for us, the NFT is an access token to a community to do things. Once we've raised the capital and it's in the Treasury wallet, we can then go, hey, you know what? We're still going to do all the things we're going to do on the EVM chain. Solana was a means to an end. Allowed us to build a nice, quick, easy system, easy to access, get in front of the audience. That capital can then move across to a MetaMask wallet, the one that's listed on Twitter, which if those of you who haven't seen, I listed the MetaMask wallet for Gweimlins on my Twitter, for the Twitter. There's nothing in there at the moment, but there will be. But if I change it, it'll be listed underneath in the tweet thread. So it keeps a paper trail, audit, visible, transparent, those things, just random nouns or words I'm shouting out. Maybe they're adjectives, I have no idea. Or they're not verbs. Transparent, to be transparent is a verb. Anyway, so there's that. Let me show you something that I'm dealing with right now when it comes to finding developers for Immutable X. I actually have one now, which is great, but this is the problem I've been dealing with. So let me find what I'm looking for. Right, I've covered up some names here because I don't want to dox anyone, and I don't want to dox the platform that. This is 2 pictures of 2 conversations I've had. So you will see here let's get the old mic on. Yep, so just checking if my my audio suddenly gone off? No, it's not. It's working fine. I was panicking for a second. Right, you can see here. So on the screen, you will see two conversations. One on the left, one on the right. The one on the left is from a secondary marketplace for Immutable X. And I said, hey, I'm getting people quoting like 20% to do the dev work for this. And they're like, 20% wouldn't be a crazy ask for developers. Now, I personally think if we're minting, let's say we mint on average at 0.04 ETH or equivalent, or 0.035 or whatever, and you've got 10,000 pieces of artwork, that's a couple of million or $1.5 million, or up to as high as 2 million if you do 0.04, 0.05. 20% is 300 grand. That's a huge amount of money to essentially build a contract when when the stuff's already online to do it. So no chance, not going to happen. On the right, we've got this guy here. What percentage? Be 10 to 20%. So load of crap. So disgusting. And this is part of the problem in the industry. Now you don't know. You may not necessarily know those figures. 10 to 20%. So if you buy a piece of artwork and they're trying to build something, if 20% is going to a developer that hasn't even done the artwork, how's NFTs going to the artists? How's NFTs going to build the projects you want to build? You know, I would envision about 20% of the raise will go to all the costs for marketing and everything else and some infrastructure build out, not to pay a developer just to upload some minting contracts. Look, yes, there's a skill, but it's not worth hundreds of thousands of pounds. It's absurd. Anyway, found a very good developer, and we're in chats now. And the goal here is, if it's Solana, we've worked out actually how to do Solana ourselves, but if it's from Immutable X, I think what a lot of problems people are having is it's still very early days. So a lot of Solidity developers are a bit unsure, a bit scared of just fucking it up. Now, what I'm looking at doing is creating a bonus pot of about 2.5% of the total mint. And I said to the developer in question, I said, look, we'll pay a fair rate for your time. There's work afterwards, and I want to create a bonus pot about 2.5%. Say I'm transparent, say it's the community. That on a successful completion of fundraising, that pot will be equally distributed across all those people that took part in the initial thing. So from got a web developer in the office, artist, the developer does the contracts, a Discord manager, or a Twitter manager, whoever the team is we put together. And we're working on that now. So that's kind of why I don't want to get involved in building and putting a Discord live now, but it'll be coming. But I want to just show you a bit of transparency, show you what we're having to deal with, talk to you about. I'd really like to get your feedback if you think no, don't die on the hill of Immutable X. The project itself is not going to change, but if you're open to the idea of Solana, then that could be quite interesting. But particularly as we're still early days, but Immutable is where I envision going at the moment. And that's about it, really, in a nutshell. That's my backstory. My point is this. So I've told you all that story, and I've told you all this other stuff now. Hang on, I've been talking for about an hour and a half now. Hang on. You don't want to hear me drinking. I get so annoyed when I listen to podcasts and I can hear people drinking. Drives me up the wall. So I'm sorry. Hang on, my son has to be picked up soon as well. Right, let's get this wrapped up. Right, I wanted to tell you my backstory. I wanted to tell you my background. What I learned from it. Well, don't put your head in the sand, face things and deal with things. I don't know whether or not, I still would have broken the law. I still would have been breached strict liability. I broke the law the day that, I suppose essentially the day I thought of the idea. The day we got our first subscription, or the day we first contacted an investor, I broke the law. My problem is how I raised the capital. And I went around normal people. So just so you know, my actual offences, the reason why I said I was linked to the Wolf of Wall Street, nothing to do with his crimes, nothing to do with his offences, I used boiler rooms to help raise the capital. So the way I looked at it was if we're calling up investors and it's a grey area or whatever, as I thought it was a grey area, I thought it was legal to call up people and get them to self-certify as high net worth investors. So this is the thing, the offence really is actually in the management of how we raised the capital, not actually what we did with the capital. That wasn't the issue. How I handled myself afterwards wasn't full of decorum, but it was how it actually was structured. So that's the legal aspect of it. Breach of financial regulations. I don't want to bore you either, but I also want to make sure you can hear from me that I have nothing to hide in this regard. And I want to talk to you about it now, because I don't want someone to go, oh, this guy broke the law once. how can I trust him? Well, I'm telling you that I broke the law, and it actually helped me turn my life around. And there's a lot of people who don't get a second chance, but there's also a lot of people who don't get a first chance because of their upbringing. But as I say, there's no monopoly on innovation. There must be some great ideas out there that we as a community could fund with not a lot of money, because we could get in early. Now, there's going to be a lot of risk to that as well. Definitely going to be risk to getting some of the things wrong. But if we're just leaving it to VCs, it's always going to be the same problem. The same people make the money. Back to my story. So, regulation breaches. My offence was worsened in terms of the media story, and that's why I say 90% of it was lurid fabrications. Was if you are having to get someone to raise money for your charity or your business or whatever you're doing, whoever does it, what they do in the rest of their day-to-day life doesn't mean you become culpable for their offence. So if you asked a murderer, and I get this in these silly straw man logical arguments, no points now, but if I got a murderer to paint my window, I'm not a murderer. So the point being was, because we'd use those boiler rooms because they were effective at raising capital, I thought, well, what I'm doing is legal, I'm just going to use them. No one else really would raise the money for what we were trying to do without us paying a huge sum. So we wanted a regulated UK firm to raise the capital. I wouldn't have got in trouble, but we wouldn't have raised the money in any great shape. They were asking for some of these, and this is the crazy aspect of it. This was in the noughties, back in the noughties. Regulated UK firms could have called up investors legally and taken 80% of the money they raised. So for every £100, they would have kept £80, we would have got £20. That would have been legal. I wouldn't have gone to prison. Instead, I thought, well, if it's unregulated what we're doing, but legal unregulated, then I'll just get boiler room in, wherever to do it, and they would take 50%. Still an awful lot of money. Between 40 and 50% I was paying, but that was much more palatable, and they're just using their skills. And the reason why they would take less is because they didn't get great ideas dropped on the table every single day. Everything they were doing normally was illegal. So to have something that was legal or unregulated but legal was work for them as well. It was a nicer story. I tried to use my logic too much and didn't use the guys who were regulated, but it wouldn't have worked. So and I see all these things, and I see like the projects when someone's saying, 20% for a developer, that seems reasonable. I don't think it is reasonable. And I think if you were investing in an NFT project that was going to invest in doing things with that money, you'd be pretty pissed off if you found that 20% of that just went on actually the uploading the JSON code and the JPEG files and writing the metadata. It's almost like doing schema markup for a website. If you've ever done SEO, or you ever put schema on a website, that's what it is by and large. So it's a lot of money, a lot of skill involved, definitely, but it's not worth hundreds of thousands of pounds. And so that's where I am. I also know what that money could do for a project in terms of investing. And that's what got me thinking as well about things like an IDO Buyers Club. An IDO Buyers Club, if you've ever used things like Occam Razor, or if you've ever seen things like Occam Razor, you stake your Occam coins. And depending on how much you stake is how much multiplier of the airdrop token that you're, for the launch pad. So if you were to stake, I don't know, let's say $1,000. You staked $1,000 worth of Occam coins, you might get 1,000 coins back, for example. But if you stake 10,000, you would probably get 20,000, because you'd get the 1 for 1, but you'd also get a multiplier because you were a bigger staker. So now you get 20,000. Bang, so you've done better. So if you could pull 20 people to all put 1,000 in, they'd all get 2,000 of tokens, not 1,000, because you've got the wholesale effect. So that's one aspect. When you've got a bunch of people, you can go, hey, do you know what? Well, the multiplier kicks in at 5. So let's get 4 of those projects to get 20,000. So now you've reduced your selection risk as well. Now you've got exposure to 4 projects, and you've also got the multiplier effect that you wouldn't have got if you were just one person going in once. So that's an IDO Buyers Club. And all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to democratize access to opportunity. I'm trying to find a way for us as a community to fund our own innovators, because there are innovators out there who, like me, would never get capital, but don't fall short of ideas and inspiration. I've been buoyed by some of the comments I've had in my early days on Twitter. I've been sort of watching crypto Twitter for a while. I get nice feedback. I can see that I think I can add something from my own traditional finance background, but also coming from a background where I've been less than a good boy, essentially. I've been a bit of a dickhead. I've been a massive dickhead. It does teach you ethics. I think, look, we have this idea that once a criminal is a criminal, and some people have that idea. I think there's a lot of people who are crying out for a second chance, but there's also a lot of people crying out for a first chance, and that's what I hope we can achieve. We can do something good for people. We can do something good for ourselves as well, and we can do something good for our community. We can invest in early stage innovation and ideas that don't need a ton of capital. Some of the best ideas are very, very simple, particularly at this stage where it's so early on in the industry. We could do very, very well, and also do very, very well for people, and give people an opportunity to turn their life around, and maybe even come up with some great ideas to improve our future in Web 3.0. That's the update, really. That's what's going on. That's why we're doing this. Well, that's why I'm doing this. And if you want to back me, I hope so. Hope you can appreciate my honesty. For those of you who don't or don't like that, then fair enough. You know, you do you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to still stick at this. But also, do give me a comments, feedback on the thoughts regarding should we die on the hill for Immutable X, or is Solana with their mobile Phantom wallet kicking in like now? Actually, would that be smarter if it's a means to an end? That's the thing. And look, this is the other thing as well, is something stopping us from dropping. If suddenly Ethereum 2.0 comes out, which was my thinking with Immutable, was this, if, as and when Ethereum 2.0 comes out, it suddenly becomes, let's imagine it was a penny for a JPEG. Okay, fine, we'll just distribute all the JPEGs for a penny then back to everyone. But this isn't about the art. This is about using an NFT as an access token to create a club that allows us to do an awful lot more. So don't want to die on a hill if we're going to struggle. We have got a developer, but yeah, I'm also curious. Would you be more engaged? Would more people be more interested to get involved if it was on Solana than if it was on Immutable X as well? That's the other thing. So I'm open to feedback. Give us comments. Let us know. Message me on Twitter. Direct message me or whatever. In terms of roles I'm actively looking for, people who know how to set up Discord bots, people who want to manage a Twitter account, people who want to do cool creatives. I'm open to lots of ideas. Throw them at me. I want us to build a community, and then once we start to get that Twitter following up over the next week or two, then we'll drop an email announcement. Don't forget to sign up for the email alerts on the website, and I'll be announcing it on Twitter and on the Tokenomist. Do follow me on the real Tokenomist. I'm the real one as opposed to the fake one. And we'll be announcing when Discord's going live. When Discord. But I've got some more artwork to be revealing in the next week or two as well. I just want to get this done properly. I want to build the right foundations before just going ahead for it and then just going quiet because I'm panicking with everything. I see so many of these projects launch and they've got nothing in place. I would rather, we take longer to get this set up and build the right foundations. And this is the other thing. If we raise capital now, I think if we're looking into the new year and we start to see prices soften, maybe uncertain, maybe we see a dump next year. Well, great. We haven't got to invest it all straight away. We can build some really good opportunities for all of us. But anyway, that's it. Thanks for listening to this diatribe. I'm the Tokenomist. Check out Gweimlins.com. Check out Gweimlins on Twitter. Do follow them. There is a giveaway going on. We are building up the whitelist. Thanks for watching.